Have you ever stood in the produce section of your grocery store, staring at a tiny bundle of fresh herbs that cost $4, thinking to yourself that this is absolutely ridiculous? Everything on that overpriced shelf can grow right on your balcony or patio. No big yard, no fancy equipment, no prior experience needed. Today, I am walking you through 15 vegetables and herbs specifically built for container life, chosen because they produce an incredible amount of food in a very small space. Before we dive in, two things that might surprise you. There is one plant on this list you must never fertilize. If you do, you will destroy its ability to flower entirely. And there is a leafy green that grows so aggressively, the United States Department of Agriculture monitors it as a potential invasive species in certain states. Stick around and you will find out exactly which ones those are. If you are new here, we put out practical, real-world gardening content every week. All right, let us get into it. Starting at number 15 with Shiso, also known as perilla. If you have been to a Japanese restaurant and noticed those beautiful, jagged purple and green leaves next to sashimi, that is Shiso. Restaurants use it consistently for a reason that goes beyond flavor. According to research by the American Chemical Society, Shiso contains a compound called perillaldehyde with powerful antimicrobial properties against foodborne pathogens, which is exactly why it has been paired with raw seafood for centuries. Here is what most guides get wrong. They tell you to load it with rich compost for bigger leaves. Do not do that. Soil too rich in organic matter weakens the aroma and flavor significantly. Use a moderately fertile, well-draining mix in a 3 to 5 gallon container. Harvest every 7 to 10 days by cutting cleanly just above a leaf node with scissors, never by pulling. One heads up for gardeners in the southeastern United States and mid-Atlantic region. Shiso self-seeds aggressively and has been flagged as invasive in certain wild areas, so pinch off flower spikes the moment they appear. At number 14 is French Tarragon, and here is something critical before you buy it again. The seeds sold at most garden centers will not give you French Tarragon. Its flowers are completely sterile, so it cannot be grown from seed at all. Every authentic French Tarragon plant is a living clone, propagated by root division. What gets sold as Tarragon seed almost always produces Russian Tarragon, coarser, blander, not worth growing. Always buy a live plant or root division, never a seed packet. Grow it in a 5-gallon pot with fast-draining soil and plenty of perlite. French Tarragon actually develops stronger, more complex flavor when the soil is lean and low in nutrients, that deep anise character that makes it one of the 4 classic fines herbes, alongside chervil, chives, and parsley comes through best when you resist overfeeding. Every 2 to 3 years, lift the root ball, divide it in half with a sharp knife, and you have 2 full plants from one. Now, at number 13, we have peanuts. And yes, you can absolutely grow them in a container. The key is understanding how they produce their crop. After the small yellow flowers bloom, a structure called a peg forms at the base of each flower, bends downward, pushes into the soil, and the peanut develops underground from that point. This means you do not need a deep container. You need a wide, shallow one, at least 15 inches in diameter, filled with very loose, sandy soil that those delicate pegs can penetrate easily. As the plant grows taller, keep adding soil around the base in a technique called hilling to give the pegs more material to work with. After 120 to 130 frost-free days, when the leaves begin to yellow, tip the container over and pull up the plant to reveal a generous hidden harvest of fresh peanuts. Coming in at number 12 is borage. Both its star-shaped blue flowers and young leaves are completely edible, tasting surprisingly like fresh cucumber. But the real value of borage is what it does for every other plant around it. Those brilliant blue flowers are absolute pollinator magnets. Bumblebees, hoverflies, and butterflies arrive and naturally move on to pollinate everything else on your patio. Borage develops a long taproot, so use a deep 5-gallon container. Leaves are ready at 4 weeks. Flowers follow at week 8. Stay on top of cutting flowers before they go to seed. because borage self-seeds enthusiastically and will take over neighboring containers if you let it. And that brings us to number 11, Gotu kola. This creeping herb has been used for centuries across Asia, and studies reviewed by the Alzheimer's Drug Discovery Foundation suggest its active compound asiaticoside shows neuroprotective properties in research settings. Most people reach for a deep pot to grow it. That is the wrong move. Gotu kola spreads outward through creeping runners that root as they go, so you want a wide, shallow bowl-style container. Keep the soil consistently moist and place it where it gets morning sun but is shielded from harsh afternoon heat. In hot weather, keep a saucer of water under the container at all times. Propagation is simple. Press any 4 to 6 inch runner into damp soil and it roots within days. Alright, quick pause. Which of these first 5 are you most excited to try? Drop it in the comments. I read every one. And if this is useful so far, a quick like helps this reach more gardeners. Let us keep going. Welcome to the Yield Champions. Starting at number 10 with the plant that trips up more beginners than almost anything else, nasturtium. Here is the mistake that kills performance every single time. People treat it like a tomato. They add rich soil, compost, organic fertilizer, and then wonder why they have a jungle of leaves and 0 flowers. Nasturtium evolved in the rocky, nutrient-poor highlands of the Andes, where the soil is thin and organic matter is scarce. In those conditions, the plant pours energy into flowering rather than leaf growth. Research shows that in low-nitrogen soil, nasturtiums bloom within 28 to 35 days from seed and sustain flower production for 12 to 16 weeks. Fertilize them and flower counts can drop by 30 to 50%. Use basic, cheap potting mix in a 3-gallon pot, add nothing, and leave it alone. Every part is edible. The leaves have a peppery, arugula-like bite, the flowers make a stunning garnish, and the green seed pods pickled in vinegar taste remarkably like capers. During World War II, when black pepper was rationed, home cooks discovered that dried, ground nasturtium seeds made a surprisingly good substitute. At number 9 is horseradish, and the container is not just a convenient option here, it is the only sensible way to grow it at home. In open ground, horseradish sends roots in every direction and becomes nearly impossible to remove. A 10 to 15-gallon container solves that completely. Fill it with loose, deep soil and keep it consistently moist through summer. Harvest in late autumn right after the first frost, because that cold snap converts starches into sugars and deepens the flavor dramatically. Here is the fascinating part. An intact root has virtually no smell and almost no heat. The legendary intensity only comes to life when the cells are crushed and glucosinolates collide with the enzyme myrosinase upon exposure to oxygen. That is why freshly grated horseradish is so much more powerful than anything in a jar. When harvest is done, drop a 2-inch piece of root back into the soil and it will regrow completely the following spring. One plant, permanent harvest. And now at number 8 is the plant I promised you at the start, the one the United States Department of Agriculture monitors in certain states. That is water spinach. While every other leafy green struggles in peak summer heat, water spinach thrives. It is naturally semi-aquatic, evolved in swamps and flooded paddies across tropical Asia. To grow it in a container, you break the most fundamental rule of container gardening: you do not want drainage. Use a large sealed plastic tub with no drainage holes. Fill it with heavy potting mix and enough water to create a muddy, saturated environment. Feed with nitrogen-rich liquid fertilizer every 2 weeks. Under good conditions, it can put on up to 4 inches of growth in a single day. Harvest when shoots reach 10 to 14 inches, cutting the top 6 to 8 inches and leaving at least 4 leaf nodes to regrow. Within 10 to 14 days, you can harvest again. Flash fry the tender stems with crushed garlic and oyster sauce for one of the most satisfying side dishes you can put on the table. At number 7 is lovage, a plant that deserves far more attention than it gets. The flavor is unmistakably celery-like, but dramatically amplified. One hollow stem does more flavor work in a soup than an entire store-bought bunch of celery. Lovage can reach 5 to 6 feet tall, so use a heavy 10 to 15-gallon container to prevent it tipping in the wind. It is a true perennial, coming back year after year from the same root system and producing from early spring through to late autumn frost. The more you cut it, the more it pushes out fresh new growth. One plant is genuinely enough for an entire household. According to records preserved by the Herb Society of America, ancient Roman travelers used to cut the hollow stems of lovage and use them as natural drinking straws to flavor their water and wine on long journeys. Coming in at number 6 is taro, and what makes it special is its true dual harvest. Above the soil, taro produces dramatic elephant ear leaves that create an instant tropical atmosphere. Below the soil, dense starchy tubers keep developing all season. Use a 15 to 20-gallon tub and place it inside a larger saucer kept filled with water to maintain constant moisture. Starting at around 8 weeks, you can harvest young outer leaf stalks continuously for cooking, while the main tubers keep swelling underground for a full 7 to 8 months. One critical safety note: every part of raw taro contains calcium oxalate crystals that cause intense burning in the mouth and throat. Research shows steaming taro for a full 2 hours reduces those crystals by approximately 80%. Always cook taro thoroughly. If you accidentally taste an undercooked piece, some sources suggest rinsing with diluted vinegar may help. We are more than halfway through. Before the top 5, tell me in the comments, are you already growing any of these? Your tips could genuinely help someone else watching right now. The top 5 are coming up, and they are worth the wait. Welcome to the top 5, the plants most gardeners have genuinely never heard of. At number 5 is ochre, also known as the New Zealand yam. While the rest of your container garden winds down in late autumn, ochre is just getting started. Its tubers only begin to form underground when daylight hours drop significantly in fall. That is its unique biological trigger. Grow it in a 7 to 10-gallon grow bag and apply the hilling technique as it grows, continuously adding soil around the base so buried stems become new tuber sites. When the first frosts arrive and leaves die back, tip the bag over for a collection of vibrant dual-colored tubers in red, yellow, and pink. You can eat ochre completely raw, sliced thin. It delivers a crisp, lightly tart flavor like a green apple crossed with a water chestnut. Farmers in the Andes discovered centuries ago that leaving harvested ochre in cold mountain sunlight for a few days converts the plant's natural acids into pure sugar, making them noticeably sweeter with no cooking required. At number 4 is yakan, the Bolivian sunroot, and one container of this plant will challenge everything you thought you knew about home harvest. Yakan reaches 5 to 6 feet tall with massive velvety leaves that transpire water rapidly daily. Deep watering in summer is non-negotiable. Keep it fed and watered consistently from spring through the first hard frost, and one single container can yield 10 to 20 pounds of fresh tubers. They taste like a crisp, juicy cross between a fresh apple and a watermelon, and they are packed with inulin, a prebiotic fiber that tastes sweet but passes through the body largely undigested. According to research from the National Institutes of Health, it feeds beneficial gut bacteria without affecting blood sugar. The ancient Inca called yacon the water root because long-distance runners crossing the arid Andes would dig up the tubers to quench their thirst. The flesh is up to 90% water by weight. At number 3 is stevia, and a single well-maintained plant in a 3 to 5-gallon container can supply an entire household with natural sweetness from early summer through the first autumn frost. The leaves contain steviol glycosides, which are 200 to 300 times sweeter than table sugar, and the European Food Safety Authority has confirmed they pass through the body without affecting blood sugar. 2 techniques make all the difference. First, at 6 weeks after transplanting, pinch out the very top growing tip completely. Research shows this single action increases total leaf yield by approximately 1/3. Second, harvest right before the plant flowers. That is when steviol glycoside concentration peaks. Once flowering begins, sweetness drops noticeably. The Guarani people of South America used stevia for over 1,500 years before the rest of the world caught on, calling it simply sweet herb and using it to balance the bitterness of medicinal teas. At number 2 is longevity spinach, a vining plant that simply does not stop producing. Grow it in a 5-gallon hanging basket to trail downward, or give it a trellis to climb. It prefers bright, indirect light, making it ideal for partially shaded balconies. A review in the journal Frontiers in Pharmacology confirmed its leaves contain compounds with anti-diabetic and antihypertensive properties that mimic some actions of insulin. Toss the leaves raw into salads, blend into smoothies, or flash fry with garlic. Propagation is effortless. Snap off any stem, press into damp soil, and roots appear within days. First harvest comes in just 3 to 4 weeks. After that, the more you pick, the more aggressively it branches out to replace what you took. And taking the top spot at number 1 is Cuban oregano, also called Mexican mint. This semi-succulent herb carries the combined punch of oregano, thyme, and mint in a single thick velvety leaf. Grow it in a 3 to 5 gallon pot with sandy, fast-draining cactus-style soil. It handles heat waves, shrugs off a week without water, and requires zero special attention. You do not even need scissors, just snap off a branch with your fingers, and the plant seals the wound and pushes out 2 new branches in its place. In warm climates, it produces year-round as a true evergreen perennial. Here is the detail that surprises everyone. According to botanists at the Royal Botanic Gardens in London, the name Cuban oregano is a complete botanical fiction. It is not an oregano, and it does not come from Cuba. It is actually a member of the mint family originating from southern Africa. The name stuck purely because of how powerfully it resembles oregano in flavor, but the plant itself is something entirely its own. And that is our complete list. Here is the one thing to take away. You do not need a yard, expensive tools, or years of experience. You need a container, the right plant, and a few techniques most people never learn. Which one are you trying first? Drop it in the comments. I genuinely want to know. If this video gave you at least one idea you will actually use, hit the like button. It helps this channel reach more gardeners who need exactly this. Subscribe for practical gardening content every single week. Your balcony, your patio, your sunny windowsill, it is more than enough to begin. Grab a container, pick one plant, and just start. See you in the next one.